It was a day of steady gains for the market. Both the benchmark indices, Sensex and Nifty, ended with gains of close to 1%. But it was the mid-caps and the Nifty bank that just took the game away, gaining between 1.4 to 1.5% between them. So how do you play this market? Do you latch onto the banks? Do you latch onto mid-caps? Or do you buy big stocks simply because they are better bargains? Do you sit tight? Do you sell? Do you trade? Our market experts are here to answer all those questions over the next 30 minutes. Welcome to Markets Today Talkback. I'm Lata Venkatesh, and with me is Prashant Nair. Hi, Prashant.
Lata, hi. Let me remind our viewers actually how they can actually reach out to us. They can ask us their stock queries on social media. All you have to do is tweet your queries to us with the hashtag AskCNBC TV-18, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. But before we do that, here's a recap of the top market headlines of the day. Dalal Street shrugs away its blues as bank stocks rally almost 1.5%. The Nifty recaptures 9,850, while the Sensex rallies 270 points. Mid-caps too gain over 1% in trade.
Infosys was one of the top gainers of the day today. Co-founder and former CEO Nandan Nilekani expected to be brought back to head the tech major. Clarity on Nilekani's role expected in the next 48 hours. That's a CNBC TV-18 exclusive.
The cabinet has given an in-principle nod for public sector banks merger. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley says that any public sector banks except State Bank of India can come up with the merger proposal. PSU Bank Index ends over 2% in the green.
The Steel Secretary exudes confidence that better times await the steel industry. SBI Chairman Arundhati, however, says that lack of transparency is a major hurdle in resolving financial stress for the sector.
Okay, we'll have experts joining us to answer all your stock queries. Gaurang Shah is head of investment strategist at Geojit Financial Services. We also have Mitesh Thakkar joining us to give a view on the charts on technicals. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining in. But before we do, let's take a quick stock of what the market actually looked like. Off the lows of the day, significantly, and off the highs as well.
Yes, a middling day if you looked at the Nifty and the range. I think early in the morning we were looking to cross that 9830, 9850 mark for some kind of confidence. The fact that the market has ended above 9850 and without help from Europe is certainly a positive. The breadth is 2 stocks in the green for 1 in the red, if I'm not mistaken, and that also should be taken as a positive. It's only the Nifty bank which leaves me a little jittery. That was the index that kind of almost single-handedly led the markets. Tomorrow is the Nifty bank expiry as well. So there can be a lot of fun and games. And then you come back after a 3-day holiday when Yellen would have made her Jackson Hole speech. So not very sure if this Nifty bank rally will hold on for a 4-day period. There could therefore be a lot of volatility tomorrow as well. Therefore, well, market's good, but I'm not still sure it looks like it's out of the woods. It could well happen that when we regroup on Monday, there is a little more testing of downsides. But the important point is that we didn't get to that 9720 mark. We didn't test the lower level at all. We were on the higher bound through the day. But stock specific, what did you notice?
I mean, so you said banks, right? I mean, and I think the difference between today and the last 3 trading days was essentially PSU banks. PSU bank index had been really all over the place. But today, it stood out. So 2% on the PSU bank index. And for a change, that is essentially what led to gains on the Nifty bank as well. I mean, the overall index, public-private combined. Otherwise, I mean, it had been exactly the reverse for the last couple of days. Real estate index 3.5%, metal index up about 1.7%. So this is looking at the market top-down sectorally. But stocks, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, State Bank of India. I mean, if you want to go by weights, then these 3 count for more than anything else. In terms of large index gainers, there was Reliance, which contributed about 12-13 index points or so. Infosys contributed about 9 index points. Tata Motors was there, and it kind of pulled its weight as well. Big futures gainers, and there were actually quite a bit here. So starting with DLF, huge volumes, by the way, 186. Yesterday's low was 171 on August futures. Today, it ended at 186. You had Fortis, which jumped 7.8 news related. I mean, large investor coming in always leads to a bit of a pop. Balakrishna Industries I mean, again, this is in the future segment, almost 8%, and again, accompanied by very large volumes. Bajaj Finance was up 5.7. Bharat Financial Inclusion, I mean, this one is really, when it moves 30, 40 rupees just in a single day, sometimes in a matter of hours. Was no different today. And LIC Housing Finance stood out as well with about 3.75% gain. I've not really put losers here because if you look at losers, you'd find a bunch, but nothing of any size or meaning.
Okay. No, even the nature of the winners, my only fear is that it's not top-class stocks
that you look at the sectors, Lata, real estate, PSU banks, metals.
That's my fear. That's exactly my fear. That PSU banks, I mean, the merger point, I must narrate this story very quickly to you. This is a conversation which a former governor told me that he had with a former finance minister, and it is very easy to guess who the characters are. The governor kept asking the finance minister, why are you pushing consolidation? They're all weak. What difference is it going to make? And the finance minister said, what else do I have to show by way of reform? It's so difficult to reform this beast. And therefore, to trade on this is a bit dangerous at this point in time, considering the other problems in the sector. In real estate, we had Ghulam Zia Knight Frank, telling us earlier today that hardly any movement in the real estate space except in affordable housing, which is a very small segment of the entire real estate.
But if you look at the PSU bank stocks, there was no real 5, 10, 12% kind of moves. They were all steady. They were all higher.
But 4% in Allahabad Bank, I would still think was an overstatement.
Yeah.
Yes, they all got beaten up.
They're all, beaten down to such levels that these kind of pops can happen. So I don't feel there is any real exuberance this time around because, as you said, I mean, this story, we've seen this before, right?
Absolutely. No, it's all of 3-4 rupees. I agree, because they're such small stocks now. So even 3-4% doesn't count for a great deal. I take your point that you can't really get hurt in these stocks. But it's time to get to our viewers and to get their questions answered. We've got a lot of tweets, and this one has come from Joshua. He has tweeted that he has 200 shares of L&T, which he bought at 1167 rupees a piece. Wants to know whether the stock will go, where it will go with a 6 to 12 month perspective. Gaurang, since this is a slightly longer term perspective, 1 year, what's your sense, Larsen?
Well, Lata, good evening to you and Prashant and to all the viewers. To be very honest, in cap goods engineering, we don't consider it as a long term because you need at least 1.5 to 2 year kind of time horizon because the projects that they undertake are long gestation. Plus, along with that, the great theme that we are positive on with L&T is the defense foray that they have made into. And with that view, again, if you have 1.5 to 2 year time horizon, then we definitely have a hold coverage, and we are advising investors to buy as well from a long-term point of view. And I'm quite sure that there are other businesses, infrastructure, turnkey engineering, as well as hydrocarbon, will contribute to a great extent over longer period of time. But 6 months, 1 year is not enough for L&T.
Okay, all right. I mean, actually, if you look at the stock, last 2 years, it's been around these levels, hasn't done very much at all. The next query is from a Twitter user, Hardik Pandya, who wants to know if it is worth adding 2 shares of JSW Steel to his portfolio. He also wants to know what the target for the stock should be for this expiry. Gaurang, you want to take this one, JSW Steel?
Prashant, difficult to give a target for a guy like me who looks at fundamental from a 1 month point of view. But yeah, I mean, in the entire metal pack, there are a couple of positive coverage that we have. JSW Steel is one of them, Hindalco and Vedanta. These are the other 2.
Okay. I was just going to, if it was not a Twitter and a caller, I could have asked Hardik Pandya how he expects to fare in the India-Sri Lanka match. Okay. Well, let's get to the next interrogator. This is a tweet again. It's come from Neeraj Chandak. He wants to know what the view is on Cadila Healthcare from a short-term perspective. Since it's short-term, I think we should get Mitesh into this conversation. Mitesh, if you can hear us, Cadila, what are the near-term charts? I would assume he wants a week, a month and a quarter.
Yeah, good evening, Lata. I think Cadila, was one of the last stocks in pharma to get into some kind of corrective zone, but appears that this pullback still has some more downside. I would say around 440, 445, which is where the 200 averages place, could be a good area to buy into. So for the next, couple of days, I think while the stock might give a bounce back on an odd day, with the markets kind of rebounding. But I think overall next 2-3 weeks, I would look for levels of around 440 and then see if there's a reversal coming in there. I think those will be best levels to buy from a trading point of view. If you are buying around 440, keep a stop below 430. And I think on the bounce back, you can look for targets closer to about 485 to about 490.
Okay, I mean, if you look at Cadila, month to date, it is down about 15% or so. And we're not done with the month. So that's the view on Cadila. Let's take our next query. This is Twitter user Gopal Patel, who wants to know which stocks to invest in from a short-term perspective. He wants 3 to 4 stock ideas, and he's looking to put in about 50,000 rupees into these stocks. Gaurang, this is coming your way.
So again, 50,000, 2, 3, 4 stocks, I think it's a needless diversification first of all. But if I have to zero it down onto maybe 1 or 2 stocks, then one of the stock which was firing away to glory today was from the HFC, NBFC segment, Prashant, LIC Housing Finance. That too with a little bit of longish time horizon, close to about 650 or 670. Your downside is extremely protected, and I think we should see some better numbers quarter on quarter as we go forward. So this one stock, and the second one, if he wants to invest, I would definitely recommend something from the cement mid-cap, and that is either Ramco Cement or JK Lakshmi Cement.
Okay. Well, we'll do one thing. We have to get into a break, but Mitesh and Gaurang, do stay on with us. We are going to have a lot more questions for both of you coming to us from Twitter, Facebook, and mail and phone. A quick break. Let's also leave you with some medium-term opinion that we got from experts.
From what we are seeing, demand seems to be recovering in August. We're not back to normality in terms of demand, but we're sort of moving in the right direction on the demand front. But the working capital cycle seems to be getting stretched with whichever company we talk to. So if working capital cycle stays stretched like this for the rest of the fiscal, I think we'll have growing financial pains. But the good news is demand seems to be recovering.
Mr. Nilekani might be bought in, at least for now, to head Infosys.
The clamour for Nandan's return has been building up. Nandan Nilekani is likely to be brought back. At this point, whether it will be an interim arrangement or not is unclear, but he will be brought back to really steer the ship out of the troubled waters.
Market has given 2 thumbs up to Infosys, so 900 on Infosys.
Nandan will be a good face to have, because he will